Hola, clase. Vamos a hablar sobre el pretérito. Usamos el pretérito cuando queremos hablar sobre acciones que ocurrieron en el pasado. All right, so last year you learned how to use the present tense in Spanish. This year we are going to learn how to use the past tense in Spanish. The challenge is that Spanish has two past tenses. The preterite is the first past tense, and the imperfect is the second past tense. Now, the trick is that even though both of these tenses are talking about things that happened in the past, they are actually very different and they are not interchangeable. So you can't just pick which one you want to use. There are certain rules that decide whether you should use the preterite tense or the imperfect tense when you're talking about actions that happened in the past. Today, we are going to start with the preterite tense. The preterite tense is called the simple past, and it gets that nickname because it refers to actions that happened one time and that have been completed. So let me give you a couple examples of when the preterite tense would be used. If you want to say, yesterday I went to my friend's house, you would use the preterite tense because that's something that you did one time yesterday and you've completed it. So when you say that sentence, I went to my friend's house yesterday, everyone who is listening to you knows that you only did that one time and that it's already completed and it's finished. You could also say something like, last year I flew to Honduras. So again here, this is an action that happened one time and it's already been completed. Yesterday I ate pancakes. Again, this is an event that happened one time yesterday. You've already done it and it's finished. Now, you could say, I ate pancakes every day during the summer, but now you would need to use the imperfect tense because you're not talking about just a one-time action. You're talking about an action that you did repeatedly over a long period of time. Our English equivalent would be things like she walked or they studied. I ran or we worked. He cleaned. You'll notice that in English, we usually just add an ed onto the end of our verb to make it something that happened in the past. Let's look at the endings for the preterite tense in Spanish next. We'll start with our AR verbs. So hablar is a great example of a regular AR verb. We have yo hablé, tú hablaste, él, ella, usted habló, nosotros hablamos, and ellos, ellas, ustedes hablaron. So whenever you have a regular verb that ends in AR, like hablar, you're going to use these endings. And I'll go ahead and write them over here, and you can write them as well. So aste, o. It's really important to remember the accent marks. Amos and Aaron. Now you will notice that this ending, amos, is the same as in the present tense. And so you might wonder, well, how will you know the difference? You'll know the difference based on the context. So if I say something like ayer hablamos, that would be like saying yesterday we talked. But if I say hoy hablamos, then it's the present tense because I'm saying today we talked. And then, like I said, you definitely need to remember the accent mark, especially on the O right here, because if you do not put the accent mark on hablo, then it's going to look like hablo in the present tense when you say yo hablo. Yo hablo is I speak, like right now, and then yo, él or ella, usted habló is saying like he, she, or you, formal, spoke yesterday. So the really nice thing about the preterite is that ER and IR verbs actually have the same endings in the preterite. So in the present tense, the ER and IR verbs, their endings are pretty similar. But in the preterite tense, ER and IR verbs have identical endings. So that really does come in handy. So for any regular ER verbs, this is going to be what the endings would look like. So for the verb comer, yo comí, tú comiste, él, ella, usted comió, nosotros comimos, and ellos, ellas, ustedes comieron. So I'll write those endings over here, and you can write the endings in your notes. Y, iste, yo, imos, and hieron. You'll notice that you pronounce the I and the E together as one syllable, hieron. Y, iste, yo, imos, hieron. And as promised, the IR verbs have the same endings as the ER verbs. So regular verbs like vivir, that end in an IR, are going to take these endings. Yo viví, tú viviste, él, ella, usted vivió, nosotros vivimos, and ellos, ellas, ustedes vivieron. The endings, I'll write those again for you so that you can copy these down. I said they are exactly the same as the ER endings. That will make them easier to memorize. So you end up with the endings I, iste, io, imos, hieron. As we start talking about things that happened in the past, you're going to realize that you need to know some really helpful vocabulary in order to do that well. So you'll see over here on the right side, there are some words that are going to come in handy. Anoche means last night. Ayer is yesterday. So you'll see that sentence come up a lot when we're practicing sentences in the preterite. Anteayer is the day before yesterday. So you guys know the word antes y después, before and after. So before yesterday, anteayer is the day before yesterday. El lunes pasado is saying like last Monday. You can change that for any day of the week. So you could say el martes pasado would be last Tuesday. La semana pasada would be saying last week. El año pasado, be saying last year. And then finally, you'll see this phrase ya sometimes, which means already. So I could say ya comí. I already ate. So it's something that's in the past tense. It happened already and it's finished. So it's a one-time completed past action. All right, so I want to go over some examples with you and show you when we use the preterite tense. So my first example, ayer ellos comieron en un restaurante. So yesterday they ate in a restaurant. So we use the preterite tense there, comieron. And this is an action that happened one time on that specific day, and it was completed in a specific amount of time. So that's why we use the preterite tense here instead of using the imperfect tense. Anoche nosotros miramos una película. So last night we watched a movie. And again, this is a one-time completed past action. So we use the preterite tense. El jueves pasado yo visité con mi familia. So last Thursday, I visited with my family. And we use the preterite tense there, visite, again, because we're talking about an action that happened once on that specific day on last Thursday. And it's an action that got completed in that specific amount of time. It wasn't like ongoing or something that happened repeatedly or multiple times, or that took like a really long, unspecified amount complete. El año pasado, ellos viajaron a Europa. So last year, they traveled to Europe. Again, one time completed a past action, so we use the preterite. And finally, la semana pasada celebramos el año nuevo. So last week, we celebrated the new year. And again, we use the preterite tense because if you're going to celebrate something and have a party, you're implying that you did that once and that now the celebrating is over and it's finished. And so it's a completed action that happened during that specific amount of time. All right, I have some examples for you here, and I'm just going to show you what the endings would be instead of rewriting the whole word again. So Olivia no limpiar la casa ayer. Olivia did not clean the house yesterday. So we need to take off the AR, and we look at our subject, which is Olivia. So it's saying like ella, and we know that we need to use the O accent mark. So it'd be Olivia no limpió la casa ayer. The next one, yo salir con mis amigos anoche. So we're going to just get rid of the IR, and we're going to add our ending, the I. So salí. Yo salí con mis amigos anoche. I left with my friends last night. Tú estudiar mucho para el examen. You studied a lot for the exam. We get rid of the AR, and then we add our ending aste. So it ends up being estudiaste. Tú estudiaste mucho para el examen. Ellos correr en el parque. They ran in the park. Ending is IERON because our subject is ellos. So ellos corrieron en el parque. Nosotros no cenar a las 6. So we did not eat at 6. And we get rid of our ending and add amos. So because our subject is nosotros. So nosotros no cenamos a las 6. Yo lavar la ropa el sábado. I washed my clothes Saturday. Get rid of the ending. We know that it is the yo form. So our ending is lavé. Yo lavé la ropa el sábado. The last one, tú beber leche con el desayuno. So you drank milk with breakfast. Get rid of our ending. We look at our subject, which is to, and so we know that we need to use the iste ending. So bebiste, tú bebiste leche con el desayuno. Let me know if you have any questions about any of these or about anything on the PowerPoint when you come to class. Adios.